Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Sabretooth issue number 4. That's the final issue of a 4-issue limited miniseries, and the overall title of the storyline was Sabretooth Death Hunt, and this is the last chapter, Sins of the Father. In the previous issue, it was revealed that Sabretooth and Mystique had a son while they shacked up together in East Berlin. Sabretooth was unaware of Mystique's true identity in that regard, but they have an adult son now, and Sabretooth has gone to find that son of his, as well as the person who caused there to be a bomb implanted in his chest. The cover is by Mark Texeira. It's a painted cover. Oils used on this one, as well as other media. Really like the effect of the rim lighting there with the white paint. I think it works really well, and that is a menacing close-up on Sabretooth's face with his open jaws there and those vicious looking teeth. Let's open this one up to the first page. There's 22 pages of story and art in this issue. Texeira chooses to set the action scenes in full horizontal panel layouts, so it basically imitates the effect of a widescreen cinema movie, and the story opens with action. There's a speeding bus racing towards the lobby of a New York City office building, and Birdie warns Sabretooth the lobby's full of ninjas. He says, kind of late for the lobby to be that full, ain't it? They're harder to get rid of than roaches. So you can just see the implication of the ninjas there. There's a little bit of comedy where he's driven right past that woman who's waiting in the rain for the bus. What Sabretooth did is he hijacked the bus and pitched the driver out onto the road. So let's turn the page, and we've got a fantastic double page spread here. Mark Texeira, certainly an artist who knows how to have fun when he's telling a story, and this looks like a lot of fun to have drawn this particular page. So 3 big horizontal panels there. The bus crashing into the lobby. Love the splintered glass. Basically all you have to do is draw triangles and sometimes give a little edge there to them as well in order to be convincing. Those ninjas diving for cover, Sabretooth jumping out of the bus and coming at them with those razor sharp claws of his. And we've got a red blood background there to indicate the violence of his action. And Birdie too has brought a big gun, and she is firing off rounds and knocking out those ninjas too. So Sabretooth here says, I ain't got time to be messing around with this trash, not when I got a time bomb ticking away inside of me. Birdie says, you've only got 15 minutes left to get it deactivated. So we're going to have a very pacey story here. Title of the story, just as it was given on the cover, is Sins of the Fathers, plural. And here we have our creative team: Larry Hama, writer; Mark Texeira, artist, but with an assist from Steve Biazzi on the backgrounds. That's inking the backgrounds. Steve Buccellato is the colorist, and the letterer is Richard Starkins. I really love that double page spread, especially that central panel there and the heavy spotting of blacks in Texeira's art. Let's continue, and then he switches the layout. We've got mostly vertical layouts there, and Sabretooth continues. He says, I'm keeping track, Birdie. Don't you worry your cute little head over that. You don't think I'd check out without taking you with me, do you? So Sabretooth's not about to forget what she did to him in the first issue of this miniseries. She betrayed him, and he's going to get even for that. And then the scene switches to the upstairs office. It's in the dark. This secretary walks in. She says, the security problem we were experiencing down in the lobby has escalated. I suggest we go to condition yellow. So whoever's behind the desk in shadow there presses a button and says, thank you, Ellie. Now be a dear and help me climb into my play suit. This is a situation best handled by the Tribune. So here is this kind of like Transformers style robot suit that this character has worn, or wore rather, in issue number 1. We don't know his identity, though we are cued to think that it might be Sabretooth and Mystique's son, who's out to kill both of them because he put that time bomb in Sabretooth and sent Sabretooth to kill Mystique, otherwise he would be blown up. Now let's continue with the story. We're back to those horizontal panel layouts on this particular page. Look at the spotting of blacks again, the red background for the violence of Sabretooth's action there. I get a little flavor of Frank Miller again in this issue. I mentioned it in respect to the previous one. I'm seeing it again in connection with this issue. I think that Mark Texeira must have been looking at Miller's Sin City in the early 90s when drawing this one, and bringing a little bit of that noir and high contrast black and white into his art for this particular mini-series. There's Birdie there again shooting off those rounds and telling Sabretooth that she's down to the last one. Don't forget to leave one alive for questioning. So we got this guy here. That's good. Japanese physiognomy on the head of the ninja there, the upshot on his head. Sabretooth asks him, "You're from the same clan that bushwhacked me at my house," a reference back to issue number 1. "How'd you track me here?" The ninja responds, "Didn't. The Tribune snatched one of our clan brothers from a surveillance post outside your house. We followed the Tribune and figured you would show up here." "You figured right," says Sabretooth, "but what good did it do you?" So then there's a light thrown on him and he asks, again, there's that Frank Miller influence as far as I'm concerned. I see it. And you'd see it more clearly if we were looking at this in black and white, but it's intriguing to me. In any case, he turns around, looks over his shoulder, and he asks Birdie, "What did you say the name of the company was, Birdie? GC?" She responds, "GC Group Investment Bankers." So the office building is the building of an investment bank, and here are the bankers themselves. Out comes the Tribune with his massive gun, and he says to them, "Gentlemen, banking hours are over. Prepare to defend yourselves. Exemplary performance in the defense of our assets will result in bonuses and stock options to your positions, gentlemen." So it's all pretty comical seeing these guys reaching for their office desks and pulling out these massive early 90s guns. Let's continue. So we've got a top-down shot there. Again, this is all very Sin City-esque to me in terms of the high contrast black and white art style that Texeira is using in this issue. Let me know what you think about that. And here is the Tribune. We still can't see his face because of the robot mask. And his assistant there, who was the surgeon who implanted the ticking time bomb in Sabretooth's chest, says they won't have to hold him for long in any case. The hyper-thermite bomb I implanted in his chest is set to detonate in less than 10 minutes. So only a few pages ago it was 15 minutes, now it's 10 minutes. We've got a countdown here, so the action is going to be pacey right to the end, to the climax of this story. The Tribune says there, "Don't underestimate Sabretooth, Dr. Mabuse. He wasn't supposed to be able to find this office either." Like that effect there with white paint showing the shine on the rim of the Tribune's robot helmet. And Ellie there says, again looking like a character out of Frank Miller's Sin City, "Sir, the sensors and corridor cameras are drawing a blank. He's not on any of the elevator stairs or corridors." So this is pretty sneaky from Sabretooth. He's climbing up the outside of the building, having dealt with the ninjas in the lobby, and Birdie's on his back. So he's climbing and swinging over these Art Deco eagles here. And that's pretty cool artwork by Texeira once again. And Sabretooth asked Birdie, "How come you didn't know who this Tribune guy was or where he hung out at if he was the one you sold me out to?" And she replies, "I told you, Mr. Creed, the deal was made through cutouts. I never met the guy." So Sabretooth says he can't slow down to her. "Are you sure you want to be holding on so tight when the bomb goes off?" So, you know, like Sabretooth, fearless, always had a sense of humor, and here he comes smashing in through the office window and gunning for the Tribune, who's gunning for him. He says, "Never say die. Sabretooth, they calls me. Now you're going to get yours, Buckethead." So there's that sense of humor again. And also, if you're an artist, just see once again how Texeira is rendering the shattered glass. Just triangles and sometimes giving us an edge to them. And I think it's very, very effective. So the Tribune shoots off a round, especially from his special gun, a charged hyperkinetic lepton impulse thruster at point blank range. So Sabretooth there takes it right in the chest. There's that high contrast black and white art again from Texeira. Birdie jumps free, but Sabretooth survives the point blank shot. He says, You had your pet surgeon soup me up, remember? You wanted to make sure I stopped Mystique's clock. The Tribune asks him, did you? And Sabretooth responds, I let her walk, but you're gonna fly. And I think that's a little reference to RoboCop, to the villain in that one, who had a line similar to Sabretooth's there. So Sabretooth says, Birdie, you cover the door, which she does with her rifle there. And Dr. Mabuse there hiding under the office desk with Ellie. Did you hear that, Ellie? She called him Mr. Creed. Got it covered, Mr. Creed. So she says, I heard, you don't think? So again, this is all cueing us to the true identity of the Tribune, which we'll learn in a few pages' time. Sabretooth's got him lifted up over his head. He says to him, like I said, Mr. Soon-to-be a wet smear on the pavement, Tribune, you're gonna fly. So he throws him out the window. Flap those arms, boy, might slow you down some. And the Tribune grabs a hunk of metal here, trailing from the busted up window, and it looks like maybe he saved himself from going splat on the pavement. That's a really cool shot, upshot of Sabretooth there with that look of determination on his face as he throws the Tribune out the window. So there's a blast from outside, and Birdie says, hurry up, Mr. Creed, you only have 5 minutes left. And Sabretooth responds, you just keep that the flunkies at bay, Birdie. Okay, so she's shooting off her rifle there against the bankers. Ellie's hiding under the desk there, and Sabretooth turns to Dr. Mabuse. He says, well, looky what we got here, all scooched down under the furniture. Staying out of sight don't help. If you can't keep yourself from whimpering, tell me, Doc, how big a blast radius does this doodad you planted in me have? So the doctor says 20 feet. Sabretooth here, unperturbed, he says, well then, you better start operating, Doc, because I intends to keep you close to the vest, sort of like my own malpractice insurance, if you knows what I mean. So the doctor is horrified. Operate here, no table, no instruments, no anesthesia. Sabretooth pops a claw here, and he says, you didn't think I'd trust you to cut me, did you? Ain't nothing in this room sharpening my claws. So here he is ripping open his own chest. You can see it most clearly in this particular panel, even though it's in silhouette that we're seeing it, because of course this is still Comics Code approved a Comics Code approved comic. You see the look there on the doctor's face, on Birdie's face too, and Sabretooth doesn't care. He says, does this ever hurt like all blue blazes? Boy, howdy. And then he says, ain't nothing like a little pain to make a man feel alive, huh? Well, what you waiting for, Doc? Come on in and commence disconnecting. So the doctor says, can you move into the light? Turn the page. Birdie's still taking care of those investment bankers, but a ninja has survived and sneaks up behind her, slashes at her with his samurai sword, and she uses a mind blast against him because she is a mutant after all. It's a pretty cool looking page. Really like the ink splatter around the muzzle flare from her rifle. Again, more ink splatter on this page, but it's representing blood from Sabretooth's sucking chest wound that he cut into himself. And Mabuse pulls the bomb from out of Sabretooth's chest, and Sabretooth grabs it. Give it here, Doc. Let's wake up the neighborhood. So it blows up in the air above the street. Remember, it's got a 20-foot blast radius. So all very pacey here. Back to the full horizontal page layouts for that widescreen cinema effect. And now back in the darkened office, Sabretooth still has his hand around the neck and throat of Dr. Mabuse. He says to him, I expect that was enough to have reduced me to a fine red mist. So the doctor's there saying he's got to stitch him up. If you'll allow me to run down to my car and get my bag, says the doctor. Sabretooth, of course, says to him, you're not going nowhere, Doc. And then he pulls Ellie out from under the desk. We don't see that. We understand it from the transition from this panel to this one. So we could have had an additional panel there for that, but we understand what's happened. He says to her, the Tribune's Gal Friday, gopher and all that. She says to him, ex-executive secretary. And Sabretooth replies, well, I'll bet you're right helpful, Ellie. I bet you got yourself some safety pins in that bag of yours, don't you? So she pulls them out, and that's what he's going to use for sutures. Start pinning me up, Doc, he says. But look who's here, who's climbed his way up the side of the high-rise building, except for the Tribune. His mask is off, his helmet's off, and he's going for a sidearm. And so Sabretooth is here looking at the Doctor and sees in the pupil of his eye the Tribune lining up a shot. And so he swings the Doctor around to take those shots in the back. So that's a pretty cool scene there. Again, Texeira using white ink or paint there for the shots, hitting the ground, some of them. Also like the blood splatter there coming from the back of the Doctor. And Sabretooth here faces off against the Tribune. Not real bright, using up the whole clip like that, he says to him. And after all that trouble and pain of climbing back up here inch by inch. So he slashes him with his claws and says, and the Tribune rather says to him defiantly, "Go ahead and end it, you ignorant, disgusting monster. I may not have succeeded in ridding the world of you and Mystique, but somebody else will. The rest of normal, decent humanity won't stand for the presence of all you mutant aberrations for very much longer. So go ahead, snap my neck. You're going to be dead sooner than you think." "Snap your neck?" asks Sabretooth. He looks thoughtful there. "Boy, your dying ain't going to be that easy, leastways not until I find out why you wanted me and Mystique taken out. How come you hate mutants so much, boy?" he asks. Let's turn the page, get past the advertisements, see what answers we get. The Tribune is defiant. He says, "I'm not telling you anything." Sabretooth replies, "I believe you won't, boy, even if I put a powerful hurting on you." So Birdie's okay there, and Sabretooth tells her, "Birdie, do as a double header. Send me inside this little geek's head." So she does that with her telepathic power, and now Sabretooth sees the Tribune's childhood. So he's crawling along this blood-splattered corridor, and here looking through a keyhole. "Oh my," says Sabretooth, "you're a twisted little sick puppy, ain't you? Peeping and peeping and peeping. Just what were you peeping at, boy?" And the Tribune protests, "No, don't go in there, don't. Out of my way, boy," says Sabretooth, claws his way through the door and sees what the boy saw. "Ran away from the boarding school so you could spy on Mother, did you?" says Mystique. "Didn't know she could do this, did you? Oh, are you appalled? Are your little sensitivities all aflutter? Wait till you see what your dear father looked like. He wasn't a bomb trader, I lied. He was something just as feral, though." Little boy Tribune says there are 1,000 of these doors, and here comes the big revelation. 1,000 more reasons to hate mutants, to hate my mother, Mystique, and to hate you, my father. That's who wanted you and Mystique dead. Your own son, Graydon Creed. So here is the confirmation of the revelation that Sabretooth and Mystique had a son, that he's human, and that he hates both them. And because of that hatred, likely is the implication, he hates all mutants too. And he seems to have had something of a traumatic childhood with his mother and felt betrayed by her, ignored and betrayed by her, sent off to boarding school. And so he has that hatred within him. And it's interesting, this is Sins of the Fathers, because in issue number 1, we saw a little into Sabretooth's childhood and the abuse he suffered at the hands of someone who appeared to be either his father or perhaps a stepfather, who kept him locked up in a basement like an animal. So like father, like son, like father, like son here, the trauma getting passed on generation to generation. So we're coming up to the end of this. Sabretooth grabs his son by the throat here. Look how powerful are his shoulder and arm muscles there. Really great work again by Texeira. And Sabretooth is disgusted. "You, my son, you little snivelling worm. I'd rather have that son off Logan for his son than you." And that's a reminder that Larry Hama played around with Chris Claremont's idea that Sabretooth might be Wolverine's father, and then basically showed that they weren't, or rather that Sabretooth wasn't Logan's father, but rather his partner from Black Ops missions in the 60s and 70s and into the 80s. So Sabretooth continues to Graydon. He says, "You were just sold a woof ticket Why, you ain't worth bloodying my hands over. I'm just gonna snap your neck like a Sunday chicken. And Birdie says, no, you can't kill him. He might really be your son. And the Tribune, or rather Graydon Creed, says, you're Birdie. I read the surveillance reports on you. And then out comes this blade from the suit. It's in his hand. He says, you're his escape valve. And he sticks that blade right into her chest. And Birdie dies there with Mr. Creed's name on her lips. You killed her, boy. Why? Says Sabretooth. Because I wanted to hurt you, mutant, says Graydon Creed. Without her to soothe you, you're alone with your pain, with your crimes. And Sabretooth kind of enjoys that. Oh, you're my blood, all right. My own darling baby boy. Graydon calls after him. Who's going to fix your head for you now, Sabretooth? Who's going to lock your demons away? He thinks he's won. Sabretooth here, walking out of the office. Look at his hunched shoulders there. Looks like a right beast. He says, oh, I know some folks who can. It just takes convincing them. But you'd better watch it, boy. I'm going to keep an eye on you here. So, for more on Sabretooth, check out X-Men Unlimited number 3. And then he would show up in the X-Mansion, with Professor X having decided to help him overcome those demons in his head and in his soul. And we know how that all worked out. Not well for the X-Men, eh? And especially Psylocke. And there you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on the final issue of the Sabretooth miniseries, Sabretooth's first miniseries from 1993. Absolutely superb work by Larry Hama and Mark Texeira. Interesting, the revelation of Sabretooth and Mystique's past, and the fact that they had a son, and the son was human, and that he hates all mutants because of his dysfunctional family, father and mother. Really interesting stuff, but fantastic artwork from Texeira. Such a pity then that he would go over to work at Image Comics on Union, which really didn't amount to very much, not terribly significant. And I kind of feel that the Sabretooth miniseries marks a climax of Texeira's work in the early 90s, starting on Punisher War Journal, going through Ghost Rider, going through then Wolverine, that short run on Wolverine, and climaxing here with his work on the Sabretooth miniseries. I don't know that his work was of exactly the same style thereafter when he came back to Marvel to work on the Black Panther series with Christopher Priest. I feel that the era of his work that I like best was from 1990 to 1993. Those titles at Marvel: Punisher, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and Sabretooth. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.